Deep in space, on a normal Tuesday morning, Earth's biggest radio telescope picked up something strange. The scientists at the station were just having their morning coffee when their computers started beeping like crazy. "Sir, you need to see this," shouted one of the younger scientists, his hands shaking as he pointed at his screen. The signal was unlike anything they had ever seen before. It wasn't random space noise. It wasn't a pulsar. This was different. This was a message. Within hours, every major space agency on Earth was working to decode the signal. What they found shocked everyone. The message was clear, simple, and terrifying. "Please help us. We are dying. They are killing us all." The aliens called themselves the Zoraxians. They were a peaceful race from a star system 40 light-years away. Their message included videos showing their civilization. Tall, gentle beings with blue-tinted skin who had built beautiful crystal cities on their home planet. But the videos also showed something else. Dark ships in the sky. Cities burning. The Zoraxians were being hunted by another alien race called the Krath, brutal warriors who destroyed everything in their path. "We have heard stories about humans," the Zoraxian message continued. "We know you are a young species. You haven't spread far into space yet, but we have nowhere else to turn. Even a few of your ships might help us survive until our children can escape." The United Nations called an emergency meeting. Leaders from every country gathered to watch the alien transmission. The room was silent as they watched the Zoraxian cities fall one by one. Then something strange happened. Some of the military leaders started to smile. "They think we're weak," said Admiral Chen, looking around the room. "They've only seen our public space program. They don't know about everything else." The room burst into quiet laughter. For decades, humanity had been hiding its true strength. While the world saw simple rockets and small satellites, the real human fleet waited in secret bases under the oceans and on the dark side of the moon. "I have a suggestion," said Admiral Chen, standing up. "Let's send them exactly what they're asking for, our weakest ships." The President of the United States raised an eyebrow. "The training fleet." "Exactly," said the Admiral. "The ships we use to teach our cadets. The ones that look old and basic on the outside." More laughter filled the room. Everyone knew what he meant. Even humanity's training ships were more powerful than most alien races could imagine. They just didn't look like it. Back in space, another message arrived from the Zoraxians. Their voices were more desperate now. "Please hurry. The Krath have destroyed 3 more of our colonies. We've seen your space program. Even your oldest ships would help. Please." The UN voted unanimously. Earth would help the Zoraxians, but they would do it their way. 24 hours later, 12 ships rose from the Atlantic Ocean. They looked old. Their paint was faded. Some even had rust on their sides. They were the ships Earth used to train new space cadets, or at least that's what they looked like. As the ships took off into space, Admiral Chen sent Earth's response to the Zoraxians. "Help is coming. We're sending our least advanced fleet. It's all we can spare right now." What the Zoraxians didn't know was that each of these training ships carried weapons that could split planets in half. Their rusty walls were actually made of metal stronger than diamonds. And their crews, they were some of the best warriors humanity had ever trained. As the fleet jumped into hyperspace, Admiral Chen turned to his staff and smiled. "Sometimes the best trick is to let your enemies think you're weak. Let's show these Krath why you should never judge humans by appearances." The trap was set. The stage was ready. And soon, the galaxy would learn an important lesson. Never underestimate humanity, even when they send their weakest fleet. In deep space, the Krath warriors continued their attack on the Zoraxian worlds, not knowing that 12 rusty ships were about to change everything. They had no idea that humanity's weakness was about to become their worst nightmare. The 12 old ships traveled through space, but they weren't alone. Hidden in their shadow, something else moved with them. Thousands of tiny robots, each smaller than a coffee cup. Humans called them stardust. The craft would soon call them something else: death. Back on Earth, Admiral Chen sat in the Global Defense Room, a secret place 2 miles under the Pacific Ocean. Holograms showed the positions of both human ships and alien fleets. The room was special. Its walls could read minds, showing exactly what each commander wanted to see. "Sir," said Captain Sarah Lee, pointing to a red dot on the map, "the craft just destroyed another Zoraxian city. They're recording it and broadcasting the destruction. They want everyone to watch." The Admiral's face grew dark. "They enjoy showing their power. Good, let's teach them about human theater." He pressed a button, and a hidden door opened in the wall. An old man walked in. Professor James Wong, Earth's leading expert in alien psychology. The professor had spent 40 years studying how different alien species think and fight. "The craft," the professor said, touching the hologram, "are like ancient Roman gladiators. They don't just want to win. They want to put on a show. But that's their weakness. They're so busy being dramatic, they miss the small details." He pointed to the human fleet. "That's why our plan will work. The craft will see our rusty ships and think they're getting another chance to show off. They won't look closely. They won't notice the stardust. They won't realize that every bit of rust is actually a weapon." In space, the human fleet received new orders. Captain Miguel Rodriguez of the ship Old Betsy read them and smiled. His ship looked like it could barely fly, but inside it was more advanced than anything the craft had ever seen. "Listen up, crew," Miguel announced. "We're going to play a little game. When we meet the craft, everyone act nervous. Look scared. I want them to think we're just a bunch of rookies in training ships." The crew laughed. They were all veterans, chosen because they were the best actors in the fleet. Some had even changed their walk to look less military. Suddenly, all ships got an urgent message from Earth. The Zoraxians had sent new videos. The craft had lined up in front of their biggest city, making a show of preparing to destroy it. They were waiting, hoping more civilizations would come to try to stop them. "Perfect," Admiral Chen whispered. "They'd want an audience. Let's give them one they'll never forget." He sent a message to the fleet: "Begin Operation Theater." The human ships started leaking fuel, on purpose. They made their engines sputter. 2 ships even pretended to bump into each other. Anyone watching would think this was the most poorly trained fleet in the galaxy. Professor Wong watched all this and nodded. "The craft are recording everything, just as we planned. The whole galaxy is watching. When we reveal our true strength, everyone will see it." In the vast darkness of space, the Stardust robots spread out, invisible to craft sensors. Each one carried a surprise, technology that Earth had kept secret for decades. They moved like a cloud of glitter, surrounding the human fleet. Captain Rodriguez looked at his crew. "Remember, everyone. Act weak. Act scared. But most importantly," he smiled, "remember what humans do best. We put on a good show." The craft fleet appeared on their screens. Huge, black ships shaped like ancient swords. They were broadcasting a message to the galaxy: "Watch as we destroy these pathetic human ships, just like we destroyed the Zoraxians." Little did they know, Earth's greatest performance was about to begin. The weakest fleet in human history was about to teach the galaxy's biggest bullies a lesson they would never forget. And somewhere in the darkness of space, a tiny robot the size of a sugar cube blinked its red light, ready to change the course of the war forever. The Zoraxians watched in terror as the human ships approached. From their crystal towers, the blue-skinned aliens could hardly believe their eyes. "Those ships look like they belong in a museum," their leader whispered. "We asked Earth for help, and they sent us space junk." But something strange was happening in space, something only the youngest Zoraxian children noticed. "Look," a small child pointed at the sky. "The stars are dancing." The dancing stars were Earth's Stardust robots, but they weren't just weapons. Each one carried a piece of human history, songs, stories, and art from Earth. As they surrounded the fleet, they began broadcasting these pieces of culture into space. The Krath warships picked up the broadcasts. Their commanders were confused. Why were these primitive human ships sending out children's lullabies and old folk tales? "Sir," a Krath sensor operator called out, "the human ships, they're playing music. Something called Baby Shark." The Krath commander laughed so hard he nearly fell off his chair. "They're not even trying to hide their weakness. Look, one of their ships is leaking fuel, another is flying sideways, and they're broadcasting infant songs." But Captain Rodriguez and his crew were fighting hard not to smile. The leaking fuel was actually a special liquid that ate through alien metal like acid. The sideways ship was releasing millions of microscopic mirrors, creating the perfect trap. On Old Betsy, Rodriguez pressed a hidden button. His rusty old captain's chair transformed, revealing a control panel that would make most alien races faint with shock. "Time for Act 2, he said. "Begin the dance." The human ships started moving in strange patterns. To the Krath, it looked like they were confused, maybe even lost. But they were actually drawing the enemy fleet into a precise position. Meanwhile, the Zoraxian children had started singing along with the Earth songs. Their parents were horrified, until they noticed something incredible. The frequencies of the human music were interfering with the Krath's targeting systems. "Clever humans," whispered Professor Wong back in the underwater command center. "Using our culture as a weapon. The Krath think we're broadcasting weakness, but every song, every story carries a special frequency that disrupts their technology." The Krath commander stood on his bridge, ready to give the order to fire. His ships had surrounded the human fleet. "Let the galaxy watch as we destroy these primitive vessels," he announced. "These humans are so weak, they don't even realize they're about to die." That's when Captain Rodriguez spoke, broadcasting on all channels. "Actually, we've been waiting for you to say something like that." He pressed another button, and suddenly his rusty captain's uniform transformed into advanced battle armor. "You see, on Earth, we have this thing called reality TV, where we make shows about real events. Your destruction is about to become our highest-rated episode." The Stardust robots suddenly stopped their dance. The mirrors aligned perfectly, and in that moment, the Krath realized three things. 1. Every bit of rust on the human ships was actually a weapon port. 2. The Baby Shark song had scrambled all their escape routes. 3. They were completely surrounded by the mirrors, trapped in a cage of light. Back on Earth, Admiral Chen smiled as he gave the order. "Time to show them why humans love plot twists. Begin operation. Lights, camera, action." The weakest fleet in human history was about to deliver a performance that would be remembered for centuries. And somewhere in the chaos, a small Zoraxian child was still singing Baby Shark, completely unaware that this simple Earth song had helped set up one of the greatest military traps ever created. As Captain Rodriguez stood on his bridge, he thought about how perfect this moment was. The Krath wanted to make a show of their power. Well, humans had been making shows for centuries, and this one was about to have an ending no one would see coming. Lights. The mirrors activated. Camera. The Stardust robots took position. And Rodriguez grinned. Action. Action. Rodriguez's command echoed through space, and suddenly every rusty spot on the human ships began to glow with rainbow colors. The Krath watched in horror as what they thought was decay transformed into pure energy. But the real surprise came from Earth's secret weapon, the maintenance droids. For months, the humans had pretended these small robots were just fixing leaks and patching holes. In reality, each one was part of something bigger. Maintenance Team Alpha through Zulu, Rodriguez called out, "Execute formation. Voltron Protocol." The thousands of maintenance droids flew off the ships, combining in space. Within seconds, they had formed giant geometric shapes, massive robots that dwarfed even the largest craft vessels. Each robot was made of smaller robots, which were made of even smaller robots. What kind of species turns their repair tools into war machines? The craft commander screamed. The kind that grew up watching too many cartoons, Rodriguez answered with a smile. Now let us show you why Earth spent so much money on animation studios. The Stardust robots, still playing Baby Shark, suddenly changed the song. The speakers blasted an old Japanese anime theme song, the same one that Earth's scientists had discovered could vibrate at the exact frequency needed to disrupt craft shield technology. Back on Earth, Professor Wong was excitedly explaining to Admiral Chen. See, the craft never developed animation or cartoon culture. They don't understand that humans spent centuries imagining and drawing impossible machines. Now we're making those imaginations real. In space, the battle turned into something no one had ever seen before. The human ships, their rust now glowing like liquid rainbows, moved in perfect formation. The maintenance bots turned giants danced between stars, each movement choreographed to the anime music. But the most surprising weapon came from the most unexpected source: the coffee makers on the human ships. For years, aliens had watched humans drink coffee, thinking it was just a primitive stimulant. They never realized every coffee maker on every human ship was actually a quantum computer in disguise. Coffee machines, initiate protocol. Espresso shot, Rodriguez commanded. Suddenly, every coffee maker on every ship fired a beam of concentrated dark energy, literally weaponized dark roast coffee enhanced by quantum physics. The craft ships hit by these beams found themselves trapped in pocket dimensions that smelled suspiciously like a coffee shop. The Zoraxians watching from their crystal cities couldn't believe their eyes. They turned their breakfast machines into weapons. Their leader gasped. Technically, Rodriguez broadcast back, everything on our ships is a weapon. That's why humans love Swiss Army knives. We believe everything should have at least 5 different uses. The craft tried to fight back, but they made one crucial mistake. They attempted to hack the human ship's computers. What they found instead were millions of cat videos, which their advanced AI systems couldn't process. The craft computers crashed, overwhelmed by the concept of cute. Sir, a human officer reported to Rodriguez, the cat videos are working. Their AI can't understand why humans would spend so much time watching small furry animals do nothing. The battle reached its peak when Rodriguez revealed the final surprise. Remember those fuel leaks earlier? He asked the craft commander. That wasn't fuel. That was liquid internet, concentrated from millions of social media posts. And you're about to find out what happens when we detonate it. The liquid internet exploded, filling space with the most powerful force humans had ever created: concentrated memes. Craft soldiers found their screens filled with decades' worth of human humor, their universal translators overwhelmed trying to explain why "this is fine dog" was funny. In the underwater command center, Admiral Chen watched the battle with pride. "We spent centuries being underestimated," he said. "Everyone thought we were wasting time with social media, animation, and coffee. They never realized we were developing the galaxy's most unexpected weapons." The craft fleet was in chaos. Their ships were trapped in coffee-scented pocket dimensions, their computers were paralyzed by cat videos, and their crews were distracted trying to understand why humans found SpongeBob memes so entertaining. Captain Rodriguez stood on his bridge, sipping real coffee from a real coffee maker. He'd insisted on keeping one actual coffee machine for its intended purpose. "Remember this lesson," he broadcast to the craft. "Never underestimate a species that turned their entire culture into a weapon system." As the battle wound down, the maintenance robots reformed into their original shapes and went back to pretending to fix leaks. The Stardust robots switched back to playing Baby Shark, and the human ships once again looked old and rusty. But the galaxy had learned an important truth. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology. It was their creativity. They had turned their entertainment into weapons, their drinks into quantum computers, and their sense of humor into a military strategy. And somewhere in space, a Krath soldier was secretly humming Baby Shark, wondering why he couldn't get the tune out of his head. After the battle, the Zoraxians invited the human fleet to land at their main city. As Captain Rodriguez stepped out of Old Betsy, a group of Zoraxian children ran up to him, still singing Baby Shark. But what happened next shocked everyone. The children's singing activated something unexpected. The rust on the human ship started glowing again, but this time it formed words in the air. The rust was actually billions of tiny storytelling robots, programmed to reveal Earth's history when they heard the right songs. "It's time to show them who we really are," Rodriguez said, touching the hidden button on his collar. Suddenly, the air around them transformed into a giant 3D movie theater, showing scenes from Earth's past. "You see," Rodriguez explained to the amazed Zoraxians, "humans are master storytellers, but we're also very good at hiding stories within stories." The first scene showed early humans around a campfire, telling tales. But as the image zoomed in, the flames of their fire contained mathematical equations, humanity's first computer codes hidden in ancient cave paintings. While other species focused on building bigger weapons, Professor Wong's voice came through the display. Humans turned their entire planet into one giant story. Every tree we planted, every building we built, every song we sang, all of it was part of the plan. The scenes change, showing how humans had hidden military technology in plain sight. Every pizza delivery drone on Earth was actually a combat training simulator. The global GPS network was powered by teenagers playing mobile games. Social media likes and shares were secretly mapping alien movements across the galaxy. Every time someone watched a cat video, they were actually helping to train military AIs. But the biggest surprise came when Rodriguez revealed the truth about human movies and video games. "Remember all those science fiction films we broadcast into space?" he asked. "Each one contained part of our real military plans. We split our strategies into millions of movies, shows, and games. Any alien watching them just thought we had wild imaginations." The Zoraxians gasped as they realized humans had been showing their true technology to the galaxy for centuries, disguised as entertainment. Nobody believed it was real because it seemed too fantastic. "That's not all," Rodriguez continued, pointing to his coffee cup. "You know how humans are always drinking coffee. Each cup contains nanobots that store memories. We've been backing up human knowledge in our beverages for decades." Professor Wong appeared as a hologram, sipping his own coffee. "And those crossword puzzles humans love doing in newspapers. Actually complex war strategies broken into pieces. Every time someone solved a puzzle, they were helping plan military operations." The revelations kept coming. Human social media influencers were actually military commanders in disguise. Every selfie taken on Earth was secretly mapping star systems. Food delivery apps were calculating hyperspace jump coordinates. Dating apps were actually running scenarios for first contact situations. Online shopping recommendations were predicting alien battle tactics. But the most incredible truth was about human children. Those kids singing Baby Shark. Rodriguez smiled. "They're not just singing. Their brainwaves are naturally quantum entangled. Every children's song is actually a complex code that can control our weapons." The Zoraxian leaders were stunned. "Your entire civilization, everything you do, it's all part of your defense system." "Not exactly," Rodriguez corrected. "It's part of our story. Humans learned long ago that the best way to hide something is to make it entertaining. While the galaxy laughed at our cat videos and reality shows, we built an invisible empire." To prove his point, Rodriguez pulled out his smartphone, a device aliens had always seen as primitive. With one swipe, he transformed it into a quantum supercomputer. "And this," he grinned, "this is just my old phone. Wait until you see the new models." In Earth's underwater command center, Admiral Chen watched the revelations with satisfaction. On his desk sat a Rubik's Cube. actually a device controlling thousands of orbital defense satellites. Should we show them the truth about human sports next? An aide asked. Chen shook his head. Not yet. Let's save the fact that every football game is actually controlling a fleet of stealth ships for another day. Some stories are better told slowly. Back at the Zoraxian city, Rodriguez finished his presentation by having his crew demonstrate one final truth. Every yes, sir, and no, sir they had said during the battle was actually a complex command in quantum mathematics. As the day ended, the Zoraxian children were still singing Baby Shark, but now they understood. They weren't just singing a song. They were helping to protect their galaxy, one do-do-do-do-do-do at a time. And somewhere in a pocket dimension that smelled like coffee, a Krath soldier finally understood why his computer crashed trying to understand cat videos, because sometimes the most powerful weapons aren't weapons at all. They're stories. The Krath returned, but this time they brought their entire fleet, 1 million ships that turned the sky black. Their angry commander broadcast a message: no more games, no more songs. We'll destroy your primitive fleet and those annoying coffee machines. Captain Rodriguez sat in his chair, drinking coffee and playing Candy Crush on his phone. He looked completely relaxed. You still don't get it, do you? He smiled. While you were away, we finished updating our Play Store. Suddenly, every game of Candy Crush being played on Earth connected together. Millions of players, matching colored candies, were actually controlling Earth's most powerful weapons. Each sweet combination launched a different attack strategy. Launch operation. Sweet victory, Rodriguez commanded. The rusty spots on the human ships started playing old video game sounds. The Krath soldiers heard the Pokemon battle theme, the Mario power-up sound, and the Pac-Man Waka Waka noise. Then something incredible happened. The sounds combined into a wave that transformed space itself. The stars rearranged into a giant arcade game, with the Krath fleet trapped inside. Each human ship became a player character, complete with health bars and powered-up icons. Player 1 ready, Rodriguez announced, as his ship sprouted what looked like Pac-Man arms. Back on Earth, Professor Wong revealed another secret. Remember how humans love theme parks? Every roller coaster on Earth was training our pilots for space combat. Those loop-de-loops, practice for quantum maneuvers. The battle began, but it wasn't like anything the galaxy had seen before. The maintenance bots transformed into classic video game characters. Space mines disguised themselves as power-up boxes. The Stardust robots formed a giant score counter in space. Human ships left light trails like from the game Tron. But the biggest surprise came from Earth's secret weapon, karaoke. You see, Rodriguez explained while dodging Krath fire, humans love singing, even when they're bad at it. Every terrible karaoke performance on Earth was actually training our battle computers. The worse the singing, the better the combat data. He pressed a button labeled Open Mic Night, and suddenly all the human ships started broadcasting the worst karaoke performances in history. The Krath's advanced sensors, designed to detect harmony and order, went completely haywire trying to process thousands of off-key renditions of Sweet Caroline. The Zoraxians watched in amazement as the battle unfolded like a giant video game tournament. Human ships collected powered-ups that looked like coffee cups. Each ship had a username floating above it like XX Coffee Warrior 99XX. Achievement notifications popped up after successful attacks. Kill streaks were announced by the actual voice from Call of Duty. Professor Wong appeared on the screens again. And now, reveal operation. Microtransaction. Every time someone on Earth made an in-app purchase in a mobile game, it powered up the fleet's weapons. Millions of players buying extra lives and special items were actually funding and powering real space battles. Watch this, Rodriguez grinned, pressing the premium currency button. All those gems and coins people bought in mobile games transformed into actual energy shields. The Krath commander was losing his mind. This isn't how war works. You can't turn battle into a game. Actually, Rodriguez replied, humans have been gamifying everything for years. Even our military training uses achievement badges. Speaking of which, he pressed another button. Time to reveal why we love battle royale games. The space around the fleets transformed into a slowly shrinking circle, just like in Fortnite. The craft ships were forced closer together as the playable area got smaller. Then came the finishing move. Rodriguez activated Operation Speedrun. All those years of gamers trying to complete games as fast as possible had actually been training the fleet's targeting computers. The human ships moved with impossible precision, hitting weak points like speedrunners exploiting game glitches. Each shot was calculated based on years of gaming world records. In Earth's command center, Admiral Chen revealed one final truth. Remember all those gaming live streamers? Each one was actually a military commander. Their subscribers were unwittingly voting on battle strategies. The craft fleet was in chaos. Their ships were trapped in what looked like a giant arcade cabinet, being attacked by vessels using video game moves, while the worst karaoke in human history blasted through their communications. Rodriguez stood up, his coffee cup transforming into a game controller. Time to show them why humans always read the game manuals. Execute final move. Cheat code. Every human who had ever used a cheat code in a video game had actually been helping to program this moment. The famous Konami code. Up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, activated the fleet's ultimate weapon. Space itself seemed to glitch, like a game using too many cheat codes. The craft fleet found themselves trapped in what looked like a corrupted save file. Game over, Rodriguez announced, as the score counter in space reached maximum points. And somewhere in the chaos, a craft soldier found himself humming both Baby Shark and the Mario theme song, wondering if his entire military career had just been turned into someone's Twitch stream. The battle wasn't just humanity's greatest victory, it had the highest viewer count in galaxy history. After the great video game battle, the craft commander stood on his last surviving ship, staring at his defeat screen. That's when Captain Rodriguez decided to reveal humanity's final and greatest secret. You know how humans love unboxing videos. Rodriguez smiled. Well, it's time for the ultimate unboxing. He pressed a button labeled like and subscribe. Suddenly, all the human ships started to transform. The rust peeled away like wrapping paper, revealing what the fleet really was. Earth's tutorial squadron. Wait. The craft commander's eyes widened. Tutorial, you mean? That's right, Rodriguez grinned. Everything you've seen. That was just the tutorial. The beginning guide. The starter pack. He pointed to his coffee mug, which now displayed the words, Loading, May in Game. Above Earth, something massive appeared. The real human fleet emerged from stealth mode. Millions of ships, each designed to look like different video game consoles. The flagship was shaped like a giant Nintendo Switch. Professor Wong appeared on all screens. Remember how humans always skip the tutorial in games? That's because we are the tutorial. Every human child is born with the ability to explain complex things simply. We call it teaching. Then came the most shocking revelation. Rodriguez pulled out an old Nokia phone, the kind that could play Snake. This, he said, is our real superweapon. The Nokia phone transformed, expanding into a hologram of Earth's true defense network. Every Nokia phone ever made was actually a node in a quantum defense grid. The game Snake was training an AI to protect Earth. Those indestructible Nokia phones. They were made from the same material as black boxes, the reason they never needed charging. They ran on pure human nostalgia. But the biggest surprise was about social media influencers. You know how everyone thinks influencers just make silly videos? Rodriguez asked. Each dance trend was actually a military command. Every viral challenge was testing emergency protocols. On cue, Millions of TikTok dancers on Earth performed the same move, activating the fleet's ultimate form. The Zoraxians watched in awe as Earth revealed more truths. Wikipedia editors were actually military historians. Those long terms and conditions no one reads. Secret battle plans. Internet arguments were training AIs in strategy. This video is sponsored by was funding the space fleet. Unread emails contained backup copies of Earth's defense codes. People who reply all to company emails were accidentally launching satellites. Rodriguez stood up, his captain's chair transforming into a gaming chair with LED lights. And now for our final reveal, show them what Earth really is. The entire planet Earth shifted, its continents rearranging. All along, Earth itself was a giant video game console, and humans were just the tutorial characters teaching the rest of the galaxy how to play. You want to know our real strength? Rodriguez asked the stunned Krath commander. It's not our weapons or our technology. It's that we can explain complex things using simple examples. We can teach. To demonstrate, he showed how Earth had been teaching the galaxy all along. Mom's spaghetti recipes contained faster-than-light travel equations. Dad jokes were actually quantum physics formulas. School cafeteria food was testing alien-compatible nutrients. Homework excuses were encrypted military communications. The dog ate my homework was code for successful stealth missions. The Krath commander finally understood. So when you sent your weakest fleet, we sent our best teachers. Rodriguez finished. Because what's stronger than a weapon? Someone who can teach others how to build better ones. As a final gesture of peace, Rodriguez offered the Krath commander something special. A genuine Earth tutorial session, starting with how to make friends and not destroy civilizations 101. The commander accepted, especially after learning the course came with free coffee and a Steam gift card. Back on Earth, Admiral Chen sat back in his chair, playing Tetris, which was actually reorganizing Earth's defense satellites. Remember, he said to his staff, the greatest power isn't in knowing things. It's in teaching them. And so, peace returned to the galaxy, maintained by Earth's greatest export, tutorials and user guides. The Krath became expert gamers. The Zoraxians started their own YouTube channels, and somewhere in space, a group of alien children were teaching their parents how to floss dance, while Baby Shark played in the background.